Good morning, everybody, and welcome to ITHive.org's live tech show, episode 69 for January 26, 2019. So today, as a continuation, last week we talked about backup, and I just want to go over once again the core services that we offer and why they're so important. So just to recap last week, backup, when all else fails, your backup covers you, right? And that's why it's important. So many people don't treat this as an important element in their technology services, and then they realize that too late, and that's always a problem. Okay, now this week we're going to talk about security. Okay, and we've got some interesting things about security. I have a real life customer example that I've seen over and over again happen again this week. And something that we all need to be aware of about security. Okay, so let me just talk about the what happened locally, because this is a common occurrence, and quite frankly, as a service provider, we find extremely annoying because these are individuals misrepresenting what we do as good guys. So here's the scenario and the events that happened around this, and it's really important for all of us to understand this, because our security really, you can have all the tools in place and everything, but you need to be educated. You need to understand what happens out there, why it happens, what things could potentially happen in the future, and why these things are important. So, I had a customer, actually just yesterday, okay? They were doing a search. They wanted to get to their financial advisor's website, okay? And so they did a Google search on it, right? And it came up, and there was a Google ad, right, which looked very legitimate, that was their financial website's site. So they clicked on it. Immediately, they got they got hijacked. Their browser got hijacked, right? And it put up a fake wall saying that their security of the computer had been compromised, and they weren't able to close it or shut down the computer because it was preventing the mouse from doing any of those controls, right? Now, I'll get into a little bit more of the details of what happens behind the scenes there, but I want to stress what occurred for the customer. Now, we spend a lot of time educating our customers, on what they should do when there's issues and what actions they should take. So, this customer, of course, hi Heather, Caroline, they called us, and I was able to get back to them right away because I realized it was a serious situation. They couldn't do anything, and I knew already what was going on. And I looked at it. I restarted her computer remotely because it couldn't do anything else, and that cleared the issue. When the computer came back up, there was no problem, right? So the antivirus software was not detecting any threat or anything like that. And I'll explain a little bit more about this, what happens. And I looked into further things. There was a security extension that we could add to our browser that was part of the web root security. So we took care of that, and that more preventative to hopefully prevent this type of thing from happening. Now, one thing I want to say is that out there right now, and there's no way to really change this, right? The bad guys will always be ahead of us good guys. Always. It's just what happens, right? And your best defense really is to have the tools and whatnot, but have human beings in the background to help you out when a certain situation occurs. So, and that's exactly what this customer did. Okay, and we were able to solve the problem. I was able to check her situation and make sure that everything was in good order and things were fine. Okay, now, so what happens when these things occur? Well, so she clicked on. So first off, these bad guys, what they do is they buy positioning space with Google. So, and based on certain searches and stuff like that, their malicious website will show up, and they make it look very legitimate, so you'll click on it, right? And you're thinking, well, how can bad guys buy ad space from Google? Well, you know what? We live in a world where money talks, right? So they do this, and they fool Google, and they buy stuff, and eventually one day they're found out that their link is bad and whatnot, and then they just buy other space, right? And different ads, right? And maybe change who's doing the buying, right? So it's really hard to police. And they can create websites on the fly. They can create new servers, all that stuff. So all this stuff can be evaded, and you're stuck with the situation. Now, so you might ask, well, how could you click on that, right? When you have antivirus software. Well, what's happening is, again, not really a virus attack, right? They're using code that doesn't trigger any warnings or security warnings in the system, because they haven't actually infiltrated the system per se. Yes, it looks like to us that they have, right? But as far as the computer is concerned, it's not really a threat. Now, hopefully one day, Google, Microsoft, Apple, any of the browser companies, right? We can develop better tools and better ways to detect this stuff. But right now, not the case. And the idea here is that they're trying to scare the person they're attacking into believing that there's a threat, right? And then in the belief of the threat, right, which is caused by them, right, you're going to call their 1-800 number and say, oh my God, I've been attacked and been threatened. And then they're going to carry on the scenario with you on the phone and, sell you, maybe legitimate security software, sell you services and all that. And, charge you maybe $300 for rescuing you from this fictitious attack. And this happens over and over again. Customers or not customers, sorry, none of my customers are fooled by this, because, they know enough to call us, right? But people are fooled by this all the time. And people are fooled by it and believe it, and actually end up continuing a relationship with the criminal, right? And it just shakes my head, because you know what? I gotta say, right? Having an IT-based company and trying to educate people out there about the pitfalls of technology and stuff like that is largely an uphill battle. People shut off. They don't want to hear about it. They don't want to hear, funny things. It's almost like I got to be out here and do something funny or outrageous to get any attention. But nonetheless, we'll continue on the path of just educating. So, so that happens, right? And it's all of this can happen without your security software alerting at all, right? So that's the issue with that. So now, another thing I wanted to bring up about security, right? I think when you have devices connected to the internet, right, you have to be careful what you do and how you conduct yourself, and what you're looking into. If you're someone that works in a sensitive nature, or let's say you're a reporter, or someone who works with an NGO or something like that, you have to be really careful, right? Because unfortunately, in today's world, if you upset the wrong parties, right, you can end up in trouble. As we saw with Mr. Khashoggi, the reporter from the Washington Post, who ended up getting killed, right? Well, and the reason I bring that up is it's kind of underlines a disturbing trend here, where we have businesses building and writing spy software, or software that will spy on people, and making money selling this. Now, so that can be good and bad, right? Because of course, there are legitimately bad guys out there that that are out to harm the public, and that you need to protect the public interest from, right? However, unfortunately, some of these companies, and I got an example here, it's a story based on the CBC that was posted yesterday, and where these companies don't really discriminate who they sell their stuff to, right? So here in Canada, we have an organization called Citizen Lab, and they are part of the Monk School of Global Affairs at the University of Toronto, and they've been working to uncover espionage threats and illegitimate use of spy software. Well, they recently have uncovered a Israeli surveillance software vendor called NSO Group, sorry, that is actually selling their surveillance software to governments and organizations that don't really have a good human rights record, right? And they are implicated now in selling their security surveillance software to the Saudi government, who in turn use that to trap Mr. Khashoggi and spy on him, right? And we all know what happened to him. He ended up dead, right? But there's also indications that they've been selling this to infiltrate and spy on journalists in Mexico, spy on political opposition figures in Panama, and of course, well, as I mentioned, Khashoggi. So what's troubling about this is that this type of thing runs as just a program on your machine. And if it's designed right, it also might not be picked up by security software, right? So I think part of the education thing here is that if you're on the internet and you have your computer and something weird happens, something out of the ordinary occurs, right? It's probably good practice to reach out to a technology advisor and have your system checked, right? And there are ways that we can do this, right? Sometimes this might be hard to find, but in the case of our customers, we have audit logs, history. We can tell if the machine's working a little bit differently than before, all those things. So we have more technical information that we can use to try and uncover what might be going on. All right. And, it's just so important. Most of us probably will never experience this, but my concern here is that what always happens with technology, as technology gets better and improves, it also gets cheaper and more readily available. So this might be used for foreign governments and stuff like that, But as time goes on, right, are we going to see a proliferation of our privacy being violated, right? It could very well happen, right? So, I think we need to be aware of this, and hopefully the big players on the tech side of things, the Microsofts, the Apples, the Googles, will start to put more awareness or more things in their products so that you are aware of these types of things, right? And only when that happens will we be safe. And then, as I started with, unfortunately, right, even if we do all that, right, the issues still might remain. Okay? So, anyway, I think that's about all I wanted to talk about today. So I'm not sure if we reached 20 minutes, but my hand is cold. So I'm going to sign out for today. Thanks for watching. Again, we'll be around next Saturday at 10 a.m. like always for episode 70. And we're going to touch on health monitoring. That's the last piece of what we do for our customers. And of course, a little more education. So with that, we will sign out, and we will talk to you all next week. As always, if you have questions, comments, anything like that, post it in the video. I'll get back to you. More than happy to engage with people on any subject matter to do with technology. Okay? All right. Talk to you all later. Bye.